On this episode of the Mad Rush podcast.
I went to probably the majority of their chapter functions with them, so that was great to be able to make so many more friends. I would say USC's Pan-Hellenic relations is amazing. I bring plenty of friends to my functions and other chapters. I go to other chapter functions, which I don't know if that's a big thing in other schools, but it's great to be able to not just have your own chapter, but the other friends in other chapters.
Welcome to the Mad Rush podcast. I'm Trisha Addix, the original Sorority Rush consultant. While the stories I have to share are nothing short of astonishing, this podcast goes beyond the wild client tales and sorority life. I'll be engaging with fascinating guests from both within and outside the Greek world, uncovering the surprising connections that bind us all together. Join me for a journey that's as entertaining as it is enlightening. Welcome to Mad Rush. Okay, y'all, today I have a very interesting guest and format for Mad Rush. I am being interviewed by Regan Brown, who is a senior at the University of South Carolina. And I was telling her that South Carolina, y'all are loving South Carolina. Like, people want to go to South Carolina and they want to go through Rush. We have a lot of clients that headed to, or that have been the past couple years and upcoming fall that are going to South Carolina. So welcome, Regan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, you're from Charleston, right?
Yes, right in Mount Pleasant, so a suburb of Charleston, just like 2 hours from USC.
So I have a group text of girls who all live in Mount Pleasant. You probably know them. They're all moms in the Mount Pleasant area. And so I have a trip to Charleston on the books. Super excited about it. But real quick, before we get into what we're going to actually do today, talk to me about, you said you went to a really small high school and you went in state. Talk to me about going through Rush without many connections, because I think that's the thing that scares people some. And you obviously were successful. So talk to me about going to a big state school, coming from a small high school, and how that looked. Like, did you know a lot of people there when you were going through Rush? So
Yeah, absolutely. So my graduating class was about 180, and I would say probably still 50 people maybe went to South Carolina. So, I mean, South Carolina is a very big school, but there were still a couple familiar faces there. And when actually going through recruitment, I had one friend from high school that lived in my dorm and also was going through recruitment. And then I had my little roommate that I met from Instagram. So I would say them and then one other friend of a friend was kind of my little core group during recruitment. So the four of us, we were all in the same Pi Chi group, did the whole thing together in like the sweltering heat in August before everyone else had moved in.
wait, did you get to choose your Pi Chi group?
No, we all lived in the same dorm. So it
Okay.
just worked out like that.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, we lived in a small dorm. So it was, the odds of being together was pretty high, which I loved. But the four of us just, I would say, stuck together. If we weren't in a house, we were hanging out on our field together. And then the three of them all ended up joining the same chapter. I joined my chapter. And honestly, it worked out even better because I went to probably the majority of their chapter functions with them. So that was great to be able to make so many more friends. And I'd say that's
I was going to say that widened your circle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very big, I would say USC's Pan-Hellenic relations is amazing. I bring plenty of friends to my functions and other chapters. I go to other chapter functions, which I don't know if that's a big thing in other schools, but it's great to be able to not just have your own chapter, but the other friends in other chapters. But back to being from a small school, yeah, I would say I didn't really know many older girls in chapters. So, I mean, which I really was kind of glad about just because I felt like there wasn't really pressure on me to go a certain place. I really went in with an open mind and just went to the chapter that I felt had the best conversations despite not knowing anyone in there.
That is great advice. And that's what I say all the time, open mind. And I really feel like, and I mean, if you've listened to this before, listeners, you know that I feel like this, but the only way to be successful and to find your people is to have an open mind and not listen to rumors and not go in saying I have to be XYZ. So anyway, that's great advice. And I'm glad it worked out for you. So talk to me now. I'm giving you the floor. You reached out to me, and y'all, I was very unresponsive, which if you know me is not like me. This has been a whirlwind with the book and the movie and the podcast and my business. So I still feel terrible about that. She had to reach out to me twice. Anyway, that is not normally how I do things, but I'm glad you're persistent because I'm excited about this. So the floor is yours. So tell me what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then you can ask me the questions.
Yes. So I'm actually in the honors college at USC. And so part of being in the honors college is by the time you're a senior, you do your honors thesis. And it's a really cool opportunity. You can pick anything in the world. It can be, you can make your own podcast, you can write a book, you can interview people, you could produce a movie, anything you want to do, pretty much. If you can back it up, they let you run with it. So I decided during the recruitment season last year, like in August, in the prime of everything, while I was being a Pi Chi, that recruitment was just something I was really interested in. I was on Panhellenic, so I'd seen it in a lot of different facets, and I thought this was something I knew a lot about. And also, I wanted to keep learning about recruitment from other angles. So I thought it'd be really cool to learn about recruitment consulting because I first saw it on the Bama Rush documentary. And
that's when people first realized it was a thing.
Yes, because I don't think any of my friends did it. So it wasn't, I guess, widely talked about until probably that documentary. And so from there, I thought, not a lot of people know about it. There's not a lot of academic sources out there about it. And I figured if I'm going to be working on this thesis for hours every week, I'd rather do something fun that I like sorority recruitment, than be in a lab. So thankfully, I have a really good advisor. And now I've been working on it for a couple months, doing like background research. And now I'm interviewing different recruitment consultants just to kind of see how their business works, what they do. And then my final production is I'm going to try to make my own business plan. So hypothetically, if I started the business, because I'm a business major, what would I do? How would I start it? Things like that.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, it's. I created this space in 2017, and just, there were people who had done, I mean, you'll probably ask me that, but people who had done like portions of it, or say in Texas, or helped people with packets, which aren't really a thing now. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. And so, yeah, ask away.
Perfect. So first.
And she's taking notes, y'all. This is so fun. I'm like, I feel like I'm not a professor, because that's not at all what I feel like, but I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Well, so first, where did you attend school and what did you study?
University of Georgia, and I was an English major.
And were you a member of a Panhellenic sorority? And what was your college sorority experience like, if so?
So I went through Rush my freshman year, and I came from Charlotte and went to the University of Georgia, and I went through Rush my freshman year and did not pledge a sorority. I did not get into one, which is incidentally the reason I started my business, because I remembered those feelings of isolation and rejection. And I went back through Rush my sophomore year, and I pledged Chi Omega, and which is Chi. And I'm still in touch with those girls. But in college, I was not your typical sorority girl, which is probably or what you picture as a typical sorority girl. There is no such thing as a typical sorority girl. But I'm not a real big meeting gal. I don't love groups of women. They overwhelm me, or people, not just women. So like a lot of people in a space, which is why probably another reason why I did not succeed in Rush the first time, because it's very overwhelming. I'm much more of a one-on-one person, but I loved being a part of CAIO. I loved my friends that I met. I loved having things to do, and I loved philanthropy. Wasn't as big back then as it is now, but I loved learning, starting to see things in a bigger way than myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in Charlotte, so
Oh, wow.
yep, and a Chi Omega, so lots in common.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Who knew? My dad was a pediatrician in Charlotte, but he passed away before you were born, probably. So anyway, Charlotte's a great place. I still have lots of friends there too.
Yeah. So, you mentioned kind of why you started this business. Did you start it right after you graduated, or what were you doing in between graduation and starting It's All Greek to Me?
So I graduated in 1990 and I started the business in 2017. So I did a lot of stuff between then. Most importantly, I had two boys and raised my family. I worked at the Atlanta Journal I wanted to be a writer and worked there, but I worked on the wrong side. I worked in classified advertising. So then I worked at ad agencies. Then I started a photography business, a mural painting business. I was a serial entrepreneur. And I'm fortunate enough that my husband works very hard. And so I was able to do these kind of things without, I didn't have to have a 9-to-5 job later on. But then pretty much being a mom, being a football team mom was really important to me, and hanging out with my family.
And so in 2017, what would you say was the, I guess, like moment that you decided to switch to sorority recruitment consulting?
So that's a good question. I mean, all of them are good questions, but I had helped because I remembered that feeling of wanting to, that transition from high school to college and not finding my people. I had helped friends' daughters through the years with different portions of it. I was taking their pictures for their resume, and I worked in human resources at one point. So I knew how to do resumes, but I know they're different, and they are very different for recruitment. And you're making me say recruitment, which is good because I get a lot of flack because I say Rush, but it's just so much easier because I talk about it all the freaking time. So I'd helped friends' daughters, and I was at dinner with some friends of mine, and my friend Carolyn was like, "You should totally do this for a business." And like I said, I made it up. Like I made up the full service recruitment consulting. And so within a week, I had a website and a logo and all the things. And then I just started researching because I figured if I did it in a structured way, I could help more people and have more success or have success.
A week is really impressive. I feel like that shows that you were all in, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
So moving on to, I guess, like your clients, do they normally come from a specific area, like East Coast, things like that?
It used to be when I started the business, it was all word of mouth, and it was my friends saying, you've got to do this. As the desire to get in sororities has heightened because of TikTok and Bama Rush documentary and all just people, there's so many more kids going to school in the South, and people from all over. We have a huge influx of New York, California, Midwest, but most of them come to us. I think you need help at any school, or I know you need help at any school, but they, in their minds, because of the TikTok trends, they are thinking that if they want to go to school in the South, they need help. So we get them from all over.
And then that kind of pushes into my next question. So do you only work with select universities, or is it more if they are going to a school, you can kind of adapt to it?
Oh, absolutely. We work with any school. We've worked with tiny Ivy League schools to, obviously Bama, because that's where the hype is. But any school, it's really more about helping our clients show their confidence in any situation. I mean, with the knowledge of recruitment, I'm so proud of myself. With the knowledge of recruitment and the inside structure that we can provide. But it really doesn't matter where you're going to school. If you want to succeed at recruitment, you have to show your best self. And doing that is not just at one place. So any school, it helps.
And then would you say you've noticed any patterns in terms of either legacy status or grade point average in, say, out of state, trends like that? Or like you mentioned, is it pretty spread out?
What I don't understand the question.
And the clients that you're getting, would you
Oh,
say,
gotcha.
yeah, are they typically like legacies, things like that?
No. So, well, as you probably know, legacy status doesn't really, it's kind of out the window, just because I think the sheer numbers of people going through Rush, you can't really give legacy preference, because then your entire pledge class would be, like, I think one year at a certain school, there were 177 Chi Omega legacies going through Rush. Like, they're not going to, Chi Omega can't give them preference. But as far as clients, it's usually just people, GPAs are way up with across the board, because you guys are all crazy smart and accomplished and way more than me. I went to UGA with a 2.6. So that probably is another reason why I didn't have much success. There are a lot of reasons, but all the trend I see in our clients is that these are smart, dynamic go-getters who really understand the need to prepare for any situation, including Rush or recruitment.
And then, so with that, you kind of just described them. Do you have a target client?
I love, everyone is so unique. Every one of our clients is so unique, but a target client for me would be someone who knows what they don't know, doesn't listen to rumors, and is open-minded.
And so for potential clients, is there an application process, or is it kind of just as you fill up, something like that?
So I usually get a call from a parent and I'll talk to them. And really our only criteria for accepting a client is an open mind. And, it can't be the parents that want this. It's got to be, because the client's the one who has to put in the work. I mean, we do work with families, but it can't be the mom calling me and saying, Regan doesn't really want to do this, but I think she needs it, which you'd be surprised. I get a lot of those calls.
Yeah, I guess I could see that with some sorority parents, but
yeah, they're not, I mean, they're all just want the best for their daughters, and that's across the board, but how they get there sometimes is a little misguided, I think, but that's,
And how long are you typically working with a client from that parent phone call to the end?
So that really has amped up in recent years also. We have unlimited, we don't have tiers like TIERS, or we don't have packages per se. What we have is just one structure, and it's unlimited, and it's a relationship built between the client and her mentor. So there's no time frame, but it has become earlier and earlier and earlier as the needs for like social media, we need to start working on that earlier in the year. It used to be I would take clients up until would say June 15th would be my cutoff for August Rush, but I would always cave if someone was desperate.
And then how do you deal with challenges with clients? For example, maybe a big unexpected release situation. Just how might you handle that?
So we have an entire, and I might mention this, but I have a book coming out that is, explains this in more detail, but it's really all about helping them pivot in the moment. Because as you know, if you get up and you get released and then you do have houses to go to, you have to put on your very best self in those houses. And sometimes you're devastated. And so, I say wash your face. You can cry later, wash your face, the cold water. You can fix your makeup, but give yourself a few minutes to digest it, but then realize that you have to look forward. You have to keep going forward, or, if you just completely implode, then you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Is there a success rate for your clients, or how would you measure success for someone?
Our success is close to 100% for people who do what we say. Like I said, we have had clients before who wouldn't say, like, if they had a bunch of bathing suit photos and we would say archive them, and they wouldn't do that. That's, I feel like, not on us, it's on them. But I measure success as the client finding the right fit for them in the right house. The thing that's a little bit of a caveat there is sometimes if clients have, unbeknownst to us, gone in, let's say they're dying to be a CIO at South Carolina and that's all they want, but they tell us they have an open mind, and then they don't get into CIO at South Carolina, but get into one that's a good fit, it's 100% across the board. They realize that if they put their effort into their sorority and forget that, for in this example, the Chi Omega dream, but that is what I measure success. That's what we strive for. Is all we're trying to do is help people find the right fit, find their people, and we're extremely successful at that.
Yay. And you've mentioned a couple times, but it's really interesting that your business has been here before COVID and before Rush Talk really became a thing. What are the biggest differences you've seen or trends since 2017 to now?
Biggest trend is Northerners coming south. And I attribute that to the COVID lockdown. There were schools in the South partying it up, and these kids were in high school locked down. They were, in their apartments in New York, and so they're on TikTok all the time and Instagram because that's what they're doing. And they're seeing this lifestyle that they just craved at the time. So the biggest trend I've seen is the desire for people from the North and California and the Midwest coming south.
I'd say that's pretty reflected in South Carolina. We have a really big Chicago, New Jersey, New York, Philly, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's new. I mean, and that's something, at least from my research, it's not. And it's also, I will say that the academic rigor at these schools has gotten in the South. So let's say back in 1986, when I went to Georgia with a 2.6, if somebody's sending their kid to, boarding school in Connecticut, they're not going to let their kid go down to Georgia and hang out with the 2.6ers. Like, it's just, but that's no longer a thing. All these Southern schools have really, the academic rigor has really gotten impressive. And so people are more willing to let their kids have the whole package versus just the academics, because that's now part of it.
My dad says the same thing. He went to South Carolina, and he likes to say he wouldn't have gotten in if he'd applied the same year I did. Yeah.
No kidding. I mean, I wouldn't have even applied to Georgia. Like, no.
So obviously you have a team for your book, for your podcast, but when it comes to actually mentoring clients, is it just you, or is there a team associated there as well?
I just hired 3 more this week. We have 16 mentors that work with clients directly. I do not work with clients directly. I do work consulting after the fact. If someone, say, didn't know about us, had an unsuccessful rush, I will help with a COB, which is continuous open bidding, if you're listening, a COB plan and strategy, but that's on an hourly basis. I don't have the bandwidth anymore with all the projects and the number of people wanting our services, to work directly with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So with those 16 mentors, how many clients are able to be taken on per recruitment season?
It depends so much based on the schedule of the mentors. For instance, one of my mentors is getting married August 16th. So she will not be taking any, fall, but she'll be able to do spring rush. We have a lot of schools, but it varies from mentor to mentor. So some mentors can take up to 10. There's really no average, and it really varies every year.
And are the mentors specific to a school, or are they kind of matched with a client? How does that process work?
I match them based on this is my superpower. I can talk to the mom and I can talk to the girl, but even if I don't talk to the girl, I can figure out who is going to be the best mentor for them on my team, because I know my team so well, and I know they don't really have any weaknesses, but I know somebody may be. We do have one mentor who admittedly is like, fashion does not work for her. And that's a small part of it, but we all work as a team. So she'll say, okay, wait, my client just asked me if she could wear this. Is this good? And we're all like, okay, we'll handle it for you. But it's not based on the school they went to, because like I said earlier in this, it's really all about helping them show them their best selves, no matter what school. So it doesn't matter if your mentor went to Georgia and you are going to South Carolina. It's still the same process, and they all work together, and we have the research to, help them with the specific schools.
What would you say are It's All Greek to me's specific advantages, either over other consultants or a PNM not using a consultant at all?
Okay, so I do a lot of research, but I do not research people in my field. I feel like there aren't that many of us. You probably know that. And I think that they bring unique gifts to their clients. So I don't think we have anything over them but what we do have that is, I think, sets us apart in all things is that relationship, that unlimited relationship. It's very tailored to our clients. It's very unique to them. And I don't see how anybody could match us in that. And then what was the second part of the question?
If a PNM is just not having a consultant at all.
If you watch the Bama Rush documentary, there was one girl who was really preparing like crazy. I can't remember which one it was. She did not have a consultant. And I think the odds of success go up exponentially if you prepare in a methodical way. But that said, that's reinventing a wheel. That the amount of hours that we put into researching and the connections and the knowledge of how the system works, that would be really hard to redo without independently. It's sort of like trying to pitch in the World Series and never having a pitching coach. I mean, it's that intense, as you know.
Yeah, I was going to say I was the girl that tried to do all the research, watch the YouTube videos, things like that. So I definitely spent probably a good couple hours myself over the summer working on that. But what you've mentioned researching, what does that process look like?
Okay, so that is primarily me. I do a ton of reading. I do I am talking to people on the ground in these sororities all the time. And I am talking to advisors and people in Panhellenic. And it's all anonymously, meaning nobody wants people to know that they're talking to me, but they are. And so I'm finding out what's actually happening. And that's also, it applies to all the months leading up to Rush, but then also during Rush itself. Recruitment, sorry. She's so good, y'all.
I was on the Panhellenic Executive Board, so I got very practiced in recruitment instead of rush,
Yes.
event instead of party. We
And
switched to
releasing instead of cuts.
yes. We do member class instead of pledge class now. These are the
Right.
connotations. Yeah. So it definitely took a very long time, and I would slip up in front of PNMs a lot. But
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I hope anybody who's taken the time to listen to me / read things that I put out and follow me on Instagram, I hope they know that it is not because I don't respect those changes and understand the reason behind them. I get it. I'm not anywhere close to perfect. So I just, it's a lot for my old adult brain to do, but I respect it and understand it. And I think it should be recruitment and member education and single preferencing versus the old, terms. I do use single preference though.
it it's it takes a long time to go from using one thing to one day the switch to the other. I know
Right.
my dad gets mad at me because I say frat instead of fraternity. And so that's a conscious one I'm trying to work on. But
Yeah, I'm with your dad on that. I don't know why frat. It's just, I don't know. It's funny.
yes, but where do you see future growth in your company? I mean, you mentioned you have a book coming out.
The book, and I'm doing a movie. I'm in production or about to be in production for a feature film. The future of my company, I would like for these mentors, and I'm totally going to make you be one. I would like these mentors to have the success. They're all really passionate about this. And I would like for them to kind of run that part of it. And then the book is going to be able to get, because it's expensive to do what we're doing, and it's expensive to have a mentor. And so the book is hopefully going to reach a lot more people, because at the end of the day, my passion really is helping. I don't like those calls where people don't get in a sorority. And they're devastated and it affects their whole fall. And then they want to transfer sometimes. And it's just, I do not want that to happen. And my goal for my company, book, and podcast are to hopefully help as many people as I can.
That's great. I'm really excited for the film. That sounds like a really cool project.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I'm digging it's just such a cool thing to learn, and the Hollywood thing, and I have agents and all of it. It's fun. It's a neat world that I, of course, had no idea about.
Yeah. I mean, back in 2017, did you see any of this or
No, gosh, no. Again, I created this space. I just knew that I had the tools, and I knew I had the connections to get the actual real lowdown. And I really wanted to help people. And that was what I was passionate about. And I happened to be able to know this world. So, but no, I had no idea. I mean, I was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. Like, it's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But I will tell you, 95% of the time I'll meet some and they're like, what do you do? If you're not in it, if you're not in this world and you have been under a rock and didn't see Bama Rush or whatever, if you're not in this world, it's confusing. People are like, what? So I have to equate it to something they understand. I recently talked to a lawyer in New York, and every question he asked me made no sense. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try to equate this to, I'm trying to give him some point of reference that makes sense, because he went to Cornell, I think, and he was not, had no idea.
I've had, since being in Europe, I'll explain to someone, oh, I have a Zoom later today for my thesis. And then the just jaw drop when I try to explain to them what my thesis is has been very interesting.
Yes, and I was about to say, I was also in the London Times recently, because Europeans, when they find out about it, are super fascinated. I have had several movie companies in the UK reach out to me, and the fascination is real if they know about it. And then when they find out about it, then they can't get enough of it.
Yeah. I've also gotten a lot of, I think they see sorority and fraternity life in the movies, and then
Right.
they think it's this crazy, I don't even know how, they just have such a picture in their minds
Hmm.
that's not
They
at
think it's
all.
like hashtag OOTD. Everybody's wearing pink, everyone's blonde and skinny, and everyone looks the same. And it's so, yeah, it's the movies. It's House Bunny. It's all the things that it's Elle Woods is what they're seeing. And and I know it's so much more than that. And there are so many great things that sororities and fraternities do.
Absolutely.
And of course they party, but some of them do, some of them don't, just like college students in general. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Absolutely. So, with, like we've said, interest in sorority recruitment and consulting has been growing so much. Are you really putting effort into marketing to clients, or would you say the majority approach you?
Yeah. I don't have a marketing budget. Meaning I've never spent money on marketing. They come to me. I mean, it's a lot of word of mouth still, but that word of mouth has kind of grown, like the Instagram thing, and moms will see a reel I've done or something and they're like, wait a minute, but that's not marketing. I don't really think. I'm
Yeah.
way too old to know how to market on social media.
I mean, I know my mom, who can barely work Instagram, found your account. So,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
definitely reaching audiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so you said there's no tiers, there's just the unlimited relationship package. And even though it's called unlimited, what all does that necessarily include?
That includes all the things you need to do to prepare, that are like the basic things that I would imagine everybody you're talking to, conversation tips and, clothing and makeup and skin and hair and all the things. Just a lot of times people are rushing, like you said, it's boiling hot. You don't want to be wearing a ton of makeup and have it all slide off you. That said, if that's what makes you comfortable, then we will help you figure out a way for it not to slide down your face. Like if you want a face full of makeup and that's you, then you do you, boo. But so it includes all that, just checklist kind of stuff. And we're really good at the conversation stuff and all that. But what it really entails is helping our clients discover, we do a lot of asking them those kind of questions and a lot of self-reflection, helping them figure out what it is they want beyond, well, even sorority life, but beyond what they're seeing and hearing sorority life and particular sororities are like. So there's a lot of that. And so when I say unlimited, we have clients who are in touch all day, every day with with their mentors. And but a lot of times it's just a text. Hey, I was invited to this spring party. Do you have any tips? Like, what should I do? How should I handle it? We even have something which I jokingly call a drinking plan. They don't like it when I say this. They're like, what are you, I'm not promoting drinking. But if you do drink and you go to a spring party, you need to have a plan. Or if you don't drink, you need to have a plan. Just because there are ways to navigate that both ways, that you can still continue to show your best self.
Agreed. And that unlimited texting that continues during the actual
Yes,
recruitment week.
it's all so like I said, our secret sauce, the thing that makes us so good is this relationship. So it would be super weird if like we and again, I don't know how people who do sort of what I do are structured, but I think it would be really weird to say, okay, you have 8 sessions for X amount of money and then not have someone in your camp, your support staff during rush itself, I think, or recruitment itself. I think that would be really hard because I feel like you would feel kind of alone in that. And that's not what I want for my
Yeah.
clients or anybody.
And then how is that unlimited relationship priced at?
So our mentor package is $4,500 for all of that. And if you break it down, I was on a podcast once. My dear friend Paul Ollinger had this podcast called Crazy Money. It's now called Reasonably Happy. You should listen to it. But he was like, wait, because when he first heard about me or us, and this was a few years ago, he was like, this makes no sense. Like, why would you pay this much money? But then he translated it in his mind to unlimited access to an expert who wants the very best for you. And the research and the connections and all the things that come with it, I think that's a very fair price.
Yeah.
But it's also, I do understand, and I'm not being defensive about this at all, but I do understand that not everybody can afford it, which is the reason I have this podcast and I'm writing a book.
For sure. And then you are one of the first consultants I've spoken to with such a big team of mentors. So I'm assuming that's part of it. But what are the main costs associated with running your business?
So every time I talk to someone on the ground in a sorority, which is a lot, I pay them for this information. It's all, again, anonymous. So there's a lot of research costs. There is just the cost of doing business, which is, computer, blah, 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 all that stuff. But as far as specifically for my business, it's all about relationships and research. And the research is where the money comes in.
Got it. And I think this might be my last question, but when you are hiring, and you just mentioned you brought on 3 more mentors, how are you meeting them, or what's the, I guess, vetting process you're doing for hiring them?
So all of my mentors were very active in their sororities in college and or Panhellenic. Many of them were rush chairs. So that is also word of mouth. So I started with a much smaller team, and as I've grown, they have introduced me to people. I will have an advisor. One of the people that I just hired today, an advisor for a sorority in North Carolina, reached out to me and said, this girl was president of her sorority. She's so great. She's so dynamic. But it's the main thing, there are a lot of really great girls out there who were really involved in their sororities and Panhellenic, but it's that desire to help someone else with that knowledge that's the make or break. Like, meaning I don't want to hire someone who was just active in their sorority. They have to be passionate about this age group being successful in this process.
Yeah, I can see that. There's definitely like the people with the deep down desire to help others. And we noticed that I helped a lot with the Pi Chi interview process. And so there are hundreds of thousands of great girls in Panhellenic and USC, but there are definitely select people out there that are just empathetic. They have great experience and the desire to really help others. And those people, watching them be Pi Chis in August was fantastic to see the relationships they made, things like that.
Yeah, and one more thing for your research or thesis that you might not have thought to ask. So I do get a lot of people wondering about, okay, so I have a Pi Chi, why do I need you during rush. And the Pikais are so good at what they do. But they have a limited amount of time to know their groups, and we have an unlimited amount of time to get to know our clients. And on the ground during that week, you've done it. You have a lot of people that you have to manage, or not manage, but you have a lot of people that with different varying degrees of needs during that week and support that they need. And so having someone like us we're able to take that off the Pikai's plate for the most part. I mean, obviously there's still some things, but then give that really intense support to our clients while they're going through rush, even with a wonderful Pikai, which they also.
I'm definitely a proponent. I had my freshman year 2 great Pikais, but I also am thankful I have my mom as kind of just one more sounding board. Yes, the Pikai groups are about maybe 18 to 20 girls with 2 Pikais. So there's definite times that your Pikai is helping someone else who's having a rough day. So having either a mom or a friend from high school or a consultant, someone that you can text, is definitely very helpful.
Yeah. And that brings me to also, and that's amazing that you had your mom, but a lot of times the moms, you can have the very best relationship with your daughter, but your daughter's been hearing advice from you your whole life. And you need to the mom should be the support. I'm not talking about in your case at all. I obviously didn't live it with you, but the mom should be the support. The mentor should be the one who is the expert and is giving advice during that week.
Yeah, for sure. And especially even my mom had her limitations. She went through recruitment at a completely different school.
Right.
In 90, I think. So very different experience than I was having. So it was a lot, I would say, of emotional support more than.
Yes. And that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The emotional support is awesome from the mom, but the advice, we have the bandwidth. The Pikais don't always have it.
Yeah.
Where did your mom go to school? I don't need to know any other details. I'm just curious.
You're good. She was a Zeta Tau Alpha at College of Charleston.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then, my dad at University of South Carolina. So very South Carolina family.
Yeah. Sounds like it. That's awesome.
Yeah, but that was all the questions I had. Was there any more questions I could answer for you or anything you needed?
No, I think you're amazing. I can't wait to air this podcast. I think people are it's going to resonate. You had some great advice, but also so people can understand what we do. I appreciate the opportunity to answer thoughtful questions, because sometimes I forget to say, oh, wait, this is an important part of why we do what we do or how we do what we do. So I appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed.
Of course. Thank you for allowing me.
And y'all,
to
I don't think I mentioned this. She's in Madrid. It's like 2 a.m. there. I'm just kidding. I think it's like 8 p.m. But still, she's in Madrid. So this is kind of cool too.
Yeah. International podcast.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Regan, you've just named this episode, the International Podcast episode. I love it. Well, thank you for being here. And if you have any more questions, if something comes up while you're doing your thesis, you don't have to come back on the podcast. You can always just email me and I will respond quicker than I did this time. And again, I apologize for that. It was just crazy week.
You're good. Thank you so much. This has been very, very helpful, and it will all be reflected in my final thesis.
That's awesome. That's great. I know you'll get an A.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. For additional Rush tips, updates, and more, please follow me on Instagram at Rush with Confidence. If you would like to reach out to us or for more information, please email info@madrushpod.com. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry and Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Trisha Adams.